Hello, everybody. As our live users are rolling in to the room here, we just want to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. Very excited to have Ricardo Villadiego. And Ricardo is the CEO and founder of Lumu. So welcome, Ricardo. How are you doing today?
I'm glad to be here, Dan. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm thrilled to share my thoughts with the Everything MSP audience.
We appreciate that. Your history in the channel goes back quite a ways. You are taking a look at your bio. You are quite the cybersecurity superstar here, the rock star. You've got quite a background. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the organizations that you've started in the past?
Sure, absolutely. I got my passion for cybersecurity then, early in my life, which is great, right? I think I'm gonna have more than 30 years doing cybersecurity, and I think I have followed a journey very different than most other cybersecurity entrepreneurs and cybersecurity practitioners, right? I started in Colombia. I'm Colombian.
Okay.
And right out of university, I got into Unisys Corporation, and that's where I got my passion for cybersecurity. After that, I went into internet security systems under Tom Noonan. Tom Noonan was the CEO of Internet Security System, and I'm happy that he's now one of my investors in Lumu. And after that, IBM acquires ISS, and
Oh, wow.
I decided to build my first company, Easy Solutions, company to help banks to fight back online fraud, which is one of my passions. When I sold that company in 2017, I developed this interest for helping companies to operate cybersecurity better, and I founded Lumu, and here we are, 4 years after that.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, the beauty of cybersecurity is, I mean, it's not going anywhere, right? And the challenge that we are faced with is, just continuous, sophistication of bad actors, new levels of threats that, are just rocking the world of SMB, mid-market, enterprise, all of the above. It basically doesn't discriminate. Just taking a look at, your history, I see that, you have quite a passion when it comes to helping organizations with cybersecurity challenges. Where did this come from? What, is your driving force that led you to have this amount of passion and wanted to go down this route?
I think it's a little bit of radical innovation, right? I think it has to be with me probably being an underdog in the industry. You probably have heard of a lot of things about Colombia, right? But not many times you've seen Colombia associated with a cybersecurity company, cybersecurity innovation. And I think that's a little bit of that passion of, radically changing the way the world do things, and customers think about this problem. And on the other side, then you see how customers and MSPs continue to replicate the recipe that has failed tremendously on the enterprise sector, right? Cybersecurity is not a new problem. Uh, However, when you see what the MSPs and in general the mid-market companies are doing, they're replicating more of what has already been failed. And
Sure.
then, I try to be very vocal about that, and I try to also add my 2 cents on facilitating how companies and MSPs can solve this problem in a more efficient way.
Very good. So today we're going to talk about disruption. We're going to talk about disruption overall, some of the principles that are surrounding that, but also just disruption in cybersecurity. And one thing that we talk a lot about in on our calls is that what we've done in the past, the solutions we've had in the past, the methodologies, the process, the procedures aren't necessarily what's going to work today and work tomorrow, and we need to continue to adapt and change. So that's kind of where we're kicking things off. With that being said, if anybody has any questions as we go along, if you could save them to the end, and we'll have a Q&A session right at the end. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ricardo, and we'll kick things off.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, effectively, this is a little bit of what we're going to cover, how we're disrupting MSP cybersecurity, how disruption can be a driving force to do things more effectively and to become more resilient for you and your customers. A little bit of what I'm going to cover today, what examples of innovative disruptions are out there. And I'm going to use a book that has profoundly changed my life. Like I said, becoming from a different country, from a different culture. And then what are the challenges that the current MSP cybersecurity triad has today, and why it is required a change, why it demands to be changed. How not to level up your cybersecurity stack, what errors you can save when you think about how to solve this problem. AI is hot for the past probably 5 years. However, how do you differentiate the tool from the hype of AI? And then I'll give you the better way how we can do that. So without further ado, I go ahead into this concept of disruptive innovation. Like I was mentioning, Dan, you see many cybersecurity companies being founded by ex-NSA guys, Israeli people, and it kind of give them the instant credibility of building a cybersecurity company. I didn't have that luxury myself, right? Being born in Cartagena, Colombia. If any, I had to manage, one of the most violent times in the country when I was growing up. So the only way that I had to be noticed in the industry was to build something that was radically different than what the industry was doing. And I did that when I built my first company, Easy Solutions, helping banks to fight back online fraud. And that's exactly what we're doing at Lumu, helping organizations to detect and respond to threats in a more effective way. And the amount of information and actionable knowledge that I got from this book, The Innovator's Dilemma, is what has drove a lot of the thinking that I have when I approach a problem. Most founders approach a problem in a certain way. I usually do it from a very different way. Most of them do it from the sustaining innovation approach, right? How the tools that already exist can evolve to solve another problem. I often approach these problems from the disruptive approach, right? How we do something differently that adds significant value to solve the problem more radically. That's kind of the way the way I do that. And if you follow, this is a book from 1997, more or less. I was living in Bogota at the time, and then I had an internship to go work with Unisys in Bluebell, Pennsylvania. And I was at Unisys working at the time, and it struck in my head why this company that was large at the time wasn't able to move that fast. That's what inspired me on reading that book. And then you saw the evidence of disruptive innovation in these examples that you see in the screen, right? Blockbuster and Netflix. And I reading the book and I see that, Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix for 50 millions in the year 2000. Yet Netflix today is almost a $300 billion company. It disrupts the way we watch movies, right? Completely different, right?
Right.
And the same is true for the mobile phones industry, right? Nokia and BlackBerry dominated that industry while applying disruptive innovation. iPhone and the Google phone, Android, now are definitely the dominant force on the mobile industry, right? Following a completely different approach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that disruption, it really is amazing when you look back and, you just think about those that, have become complacent and feel as, because they've been such a dominant player that, that they're sustainable, but not always the case. I do have a question for you, though. Do you have any examples that of this type of disruption that fall into the cybersecurity space?
Well, absolutely. Like if you look at the IT space, right, and then more recently is the cybersecurity space, you could say that in the IT space, companies like Nortel Networks at some point dominated the networking market, and those companies doesn't exist today, right?
Right.
More recently, 3Com, right, dominated, have a decent amount of market share on the market. They don't really exist today. If you move into cybersecurity, you could say that the AV market, right, Symantec and McAfee, those companies dominated that market for probably 2 decades. They're no longer relevant today. They're trying to reinvent themselves into the market, but not really relevant. Other companies took their place. So that's a little bit of disruptive innovation. One of the probably most, sustained technologies that exist in cybersecurity today is the SIEM market, right? The SIEM market is a continuous iterations, a sustained innovation that time after time have demonstrated that they fail the promises to the customers. I think that's one of the disruptions that we're going to see moving forward. And when there is a disruption, there's no doubt that there's going to be winners and losers on the disruption, right? And time after time, the common denominator is that the winners are those guys that embrace the adoption, even though that embrace the disruption, even though it may be scary, even though the disruption at some point may be substandard to produce the value of the sustained innovation. Those winners understand that that's the path forward. The losers on the disruption are typically those guys that that cling too tightly on the old model, right? No, this is because we have done this that way. That is the way it has to be done moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And you only wake up when it's too late. When the early adopters, when who's gonna be the winners of this market, already adopt the disruption and build significant, more efficient business models around that adoption. That's what I see. And then when I connect these through what we see in the cybersecurity stack of MSPs today, this is typically the stack that you see on the MSPs today, right? The MSPs and their customers, they typically have this triad. They have the firewall, they have their endpoint security that in some cases is an EDR, and they have the email security. Some of them have something more, but this is kind of the basics, right? Of these stack that they have.
So when I think about so many MSPs, and what you're saying is totally true. So many MSPs have this exact stack, but ultimately, is there anything wrong with that?
I don't think there's something wrong per se on the stack. I think that the wrong part comes on the fact that 100% of the attacks bypass the stack. So I think that the call to action here is, if 100% of the attackers know how to evade the stack, what is missing on this stack, right? How do I make this stack more resilient? And more often than not, what I see is when there is an MSP or a customer of an MSP that is impacted by an attack, the question is, okay, I need to change the EDR that I'm using for another EDR. And that's going to save you another 1 year, 2 years until the next attack comes in, and then you replicate the story. Okay, now it's not the EDR, now it's the email security that I need to enhance, right?
Yeah.
But continuously you see this triad. You don't see the people approach the problem at what is missing at this stack that can help this to make more effective, right? There's significant evidence that attackers know how to bypass the stack, regardless of the stack, regardless of the brand of the firewall that you have, regardless of the brand of the email security tool that you have, and regardless of the endpoint security tool that you have. They know how to bypass it, right? Now, if you complete this with MSPs, I think have been forced, because attackers have been more pervasive, affecting every segment of the pyramid of the market, right? Small and medium business, mid-market, and enterprise. MSPs have to definitely elevate the way they look at cybersecurity. And the traditional security model is inefficient, it's not sustainable. So changing these tools continuously is not going to get you to a better outcome in the long term. The constant adoption of these new tools requires that you have to retrain your analysts on these new tools. So you go through stages of low productivity because of that. And then more often than not, these tools are silos, right? The firewall is there, the EDR is there, but they don't work together necessarily as a team in pursuit of a higher outcome in terms of cyber resilience for the companies. So I think there's no doubt the cybersecurity model has to evolve, and it has to, and I think the market that has the higher opportunity to make this bold move is the MSP market. Right now, let's go into some of the mistakes, I guess, that we can avoid as we elevate the cybersecurity stack. I think one of the things that pissed me off, Dan, is that when you ask someone that you have to build a security operations center, the answer is that you need a SIEM. And the SIEM, is the center of the operations center today, but it's the result of significant sustained innovation. There is nothing radical, there is nothing disruptive on that technology, right? SIEMs started by capturing logs, and then now that the logs are there, now let's train the SIEM on how to detect attacks on the network. The adversary moved to another vector of attacks. Okay, now let's train the SIEM on how to detect attacks on user behavior, and so on and so forth. It's just a continuous iteration of a small evolutions. It fits into the exact criteria of a market that is ready for disruption. And then when you look at the other tools that this market use, like I said again, the SIEM, most of the SIEM have been forced to go to the cloud, but the architecture of the SIEM was designed in the 90s. So it wasn't really an architecture that can absorb the benefits of the cloud. A big issue there. Then you have the EDR, and like I said at the beginning, I think the EDR is a disruptive innovation to the AV market. However, now they are in that train of sustained innovation, changing the E for the X to see more alerts. I don't think that's gonna go to provide significant value to the market. And then all the gaps on those tools, the only way to solve those gaps is by managing those tools, right? And then you manage those tools by adding human resources to those tools to fill the gaps that these technologies produce. But then, it becomes inefficient as you scale, right?
Yeah.
It is hard. Now, on the MDR side, I think also, I think the MSPs, if you look at the MSPs 10 years from now, right? MSPs will become cybersecurity companies.
Right.
Just like banks, you look at large banks today, and I know this from my past company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Banks are software companies today. Large banks, from Capital One to Bank of America to BBVA in Spain, they are software companies that happens to process billions of transactions, right?
Sure.
MSPs today, they see themselves as IT, managed IT companies. But if you look at them 10 years in the future, they have to build the capabilities to operate cybersecurity efficiently. The more that they embrace to outsource cybersecurity, the less ready that they're going to be for the challenges that they're going to face 5 to 10 years in the future, right?
Right. Well, I think, one of the driving forces for that is going to be regulation. When you take a look at some of the areas we've been talking about, CMMC and, everything that's coming down with that. And, ultimately, that is where it's going to really separate, for lack of a better way of saying it, the men from the boys. But with that being said, a lot of organizations, need a SIM for compliance purposes. So what about those organizations?
That's a very good point, Dan. I think, and it goes back to, that question that pissed me off, that when you ask someone, we need to build a security operations center, the answer that comes back is, I need a SIM. I rarely get, I need a tool that helps me to detect and respond to attacks effectively, which is what you're really trying to do. On the compliance side, you really have the data, because on compliance, you're required to store that data by compliance requirements. They don't tell you that you have to store that data in a SIM. So there are more effective ways to store that data, to manage that data, than continue to use the recipe that has failed for a long time. And in other words, I think it's just cheaper, more effective to store the data in a different way than to store it in a SIM. So that will cover the compliance angle, right? Now let me get into how why these tools have been falling behind, right? I think like I said, most of these tools, the architecture of this tool was designed in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? So cloud computing wasn't really big at that time. So the architecture isn't ready to adopt the huge benefits of cloud computing. So if you see SIM tools, for instance, those SIM tools were designed to be on-prem. The market forced them to go to the cloud, but the deployment in the cloud is a replica of what they do on on-prem deployments, with the exceptions of a few technologies. So that gives them, the inability to extract additional value from the cloud. The way they consume storage hasn't necessarily been optimized for cloud computing. And because of that, the way the data is structured isn't optimized for artificial intelligence, right? So most of these tools, it's going to take them a long time to adapt these tools to be more effective. And what you see in the market is that most of these vendors are really creating new technologies from zero to make them ready for the cloud, while they continue to serve the market with the traditional tools that they have. There's several examples of that in the market. And now, if you go to AI, which is another big topic in the industry today, right? And I think here we have to be practical too, right? The market demands more AI tools. And because of that, the vendors are there to sell their tools, right? Because of that demand, you find vendors that just rename any statistical model to AI now, because that's what the market is demanding. So we need to make sure that the market is savvy on understanding who are really the tools that are including AI in a way that makes sense for them. So at the same time, we had a saying in Spanish, like, if you cannot like the rose if you don't like the thorns, right? It's a little bit of that also in AI, right? If you are working with a tool, with a vendor that tells you, there's no false positives in my AI, well, that is a lie, right? Just the simple way of how an AI model works, the performance of that AI model is going to produce true positives and false positives. The key is how you manage the noise, right? How do you manage the noise? How you create an experience in which the analyst isn't bombarded by the noise that the AI models produce. Those are kind of the limitation of using AI. But I think it's a very promising tool. I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, when you take a look at it, anything that's new like AI, everybody wants to cling to that and throw that label on it that, we have levels of integration, and I kind of feel like in some regards it's a lot of fluff, or it's hype, and it's not genuinely their vision, their mission, and it's not genuinely part of their product. It's just kind of a, hey, let's throw this on here because everybody wants to hear AI. So how do you handle all that hype?
I think the way we do it, Dan, is we clearly articulate what we do with AI and how we do it to our customers, and articulating clearly how we are learning from their networks, for instance, how we use that learning to identify anomalies, and we showcase that to them. So if a vendor, in my experience, if a vendor doesn't articulate correctly how they use their AI in their products, they most likely aren't using AI. They're most likely using a combination of fuzzy rules, statistical models that they just rebranded as AI because that's what the market is demanding. Ultimately, in my view, AI amplifies human expertise. AI helps to produce expert-level outcomes from entry-level people, which is something that this industry requires a lot. How do I get a L1 analyst to perform as an L3 analyst because of the lift up that the AI tools enable them to do? And that's more important than ever in cybersecurity, because there's not going to be enough talent if we don't empower every analyst, any IT analyst, to become a cybersecurity analyst. And I'm saying this here, and I know a lot of vendors are going to be trashing me for saying that, but that is the truth. The only way that we're going to win this battle, Dan, is if we empower every MSP to become and to produce expert-like cybersecurity outcomes with the people that they already have, right?
Right.
That is something that goes against the business model of some of the companies out there, but that's truly the truth, and that's, in my view, the bigger disruption, right?
Well, we're so limited with our talent out there, and I was just reading a stat as far as the growth in the MSP space uh, between now and 2028 is tremendous. It's
Mhm.
substantial. However, the challenge with that is just the lack of IT talent, and that's where leveraging AI tools really comes into play.
Absolutely, I have no doubt about that. Again, it goes against the business model of some companies out there, but I think that's the ultimate way to solve this problem. And if I take what I said before, right, 10 years from now, every MSP is going to be a cybersecurity company,
Right,
neglecting to elevate the skill set of your team today is gonna go against your business at some point.
right.
So better to embrace that now and become better at that. So how we do that, right? Well, that's a little bit of the radical disruption that we're adding into the market. How we build better MSP operations, MSP cybersecurity operations. Well, we have to empower the signals that the networks of the customers that you're serving are providing. In cybersecurity, there's something that is true and will always be true, and is that the network is the ultimate source of truth. A network that's compromised behaves differently than a network that is not. And there's this um, process that is an adaptation of the kill chain in the physical world to the cyber world. It's named as the cyber kill chain, and the adversary has to go through most of these steps, if not all of these steps, to effectively compromise an organization. And the common denominator across this is that they have to use the network. So if you are able to understand what is in the network, how the network of your MSP and the network of the customers, your customers, is behaving, you have the advantage of identifying if there is a threat actor affecting your network. So in order to do so, you have to collect the signals that the network is sending to you, the network of your customers and your own network, Mr. MSP, is producing to you. And there's something that is nice about this, and it's that network metadata is yours and it's from your customer. You don't have to pay anyone to use that network metadata for your benefit. It's there for you to use it to extract value. That's what Lumu helps customers and MSPs to do, to simplify how this data is collected. The challenges of collecting this data is a lot of data. Is a lot of data that you have to give them a structure, that you have to analyze it, that you have to optimize it to identify threats affecting your network. Well, Lumu does all that work for you, right? We get that data. And when you do that, now you have eliminated the need for excessive log collection, right? Which is what the SIEMs market tries to do, upon which they evolve their threat detection capabilities, is from collecting this huge amount of data that then becomes unmanageable. And then you eliminated the need for excessive alerting and excessive incident creation. And it gives you the ability then to include in that triad what is missing, why the endpoint didn't detect something. Well, it's because there are more assets in the network that use endpoint where you can deploy an agent. I often joke with customers that tell me, Ricardo, we deploy CrosstrAI and it's on all the endpoints. And then I ask, hey, how many printers do you have? How many IP phones do you have? How many IP cameras do you have? Did you deploy the CrosstrAI agent on those devices? And the answer is, of course, no, because there's no way to deploy an agent on those devices, right?
Right.
So there are devices that you don't have visibility, but are becoming part of the attack surface of your organization. And the same is true with other brands, of course. And this is not to trash CrosstrIve, which is one of our great partners, but it's the reality. There are more assets in the networks that you have to get visibility from, that you are unable to deploy an agent on those assets. Hence, the only way to get the visibility from those assets is from how they are behaving in the network. That gives you the ability to orchestrate defense to the triad that you have, to your endpoint security tool, your firewall, your email security tool, and so on and so forth. Right.
So when you take a look at MSPs, I mean, every MSP is different overall. I mean, in a perfect world, if we all had the same stack, putting something like this together would make it easy. But how do you manage this, knowing that every MSP is unique and has a different stack?
Well, we do an assessment of the market, of course, and one of the things, and this is a timely question because it's right my next slide, right, is the majority of the MSPs that we're seeing are using any of these brand of firewalls: Soniwall, Fortinet, Cisco, Meraki, or WatchGuard, right? So we have built the tool compatible for these tools. This is not to say that if there's an MSP that's serving a larger market that is using Palo Alto, Lumu is also compatible with Palo Alto network, or that is using Cisco Firepowers. Lumu is also compatible. I'm putting here the brands that are more relevant to the general MSP market. And when you go to endpoint security, you see a lot of SentinelOne, you see a lot of Microsoft Defender, you see a lot of Sophos, more recently a lot of Huntress. We don't see Huntress here yet, but most of the vendors that you don't see here is because we have been unable to secure an integration. We're an open company, right? We want to build the integrations with the tools that serve the market. If you don't see a tool that serves the market integrated here, it is not because of lack of interest from Lumu. It's probably because of lack of interest from the other party. We want to make sure that we serve this market effectively. And then when you go to email security, Google Workplace and Office 365 dominates the market. And then you go into MSP operations, and you see that ConnectWise and Kaseya and NinjaOne dominates the market. And I invite every MSP listening to this show, if there is any tool that you want to see Lumu integrated with, shoot me an email, contact me, and we'll make sure that we identify how we made that integration works.
Can I ask just one quick question? So how do you make sure that that's ready for every MSP?
When there is an integration that is not out of the box, as we like to call it, for the MSP, then the architecture, the way the architecture of the product has been built down is that it has two standard APIs, one API for data collection and one API for automated response. So that gives us the ability to quickly respond to the market when there is an integration that we don't have ready, by orchestrating these APIs with the APIs of the other vendors to make it ready for the MSPs. All right. So in conclusion, embracing versus not embracing cybersecurity disruption. I think above these topics that I have here, I would like to say that being ready for the market in the next decade is going to be important. In the next 5 to 10 years, like I said before, every MSP is going to be a cybersecurity company in a way that happens to serve IT infrastructure for the companies because of the relevance that security is going to create for all the businesses. So making sure that your current business is ready to serve that demand. In addition to that, not embracing the disruption puts you into an issue of operational efficiency. Materializing an attack can affect your legal exposure, your reputation, it can even expose the viability of your business. Embracing the disruption, in addition to make your business ready for the challenges that the business is gonna get in the next 5 to 10 years, it's gonna give you a lot of efficiency. It's gonna help you be more cost effective to serve the markets that you have. It's gonna give you more adaptability, and it's gonna help you elevate your current analyst, IT analyst, to produce cybersecurity expert-like outcomes using AI. A lot of what I have talked here, Dan, is some of the talks that I put together into this white paper. I invite the entire audience to scan the code, take a look at the white paper, and reach out if you wanna discuss deeper these concepts. But more importantly, if you want to try these out, we have a freemium offering that's called Lumu for MSP. That is the full flavor of the technology, of the disruption that you can get from Lumu for up to 3 customers, and with 3 integrations for each customers, and up to 50 endpoints across those 3 customers. That will give you all the power that you can get from Lumu, so that you can see for yourself adding value to your operation. That's what I have today, Dan, and with that, I'm open to Q&A.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and throw them in chat. And can you go back one slide to the Lumu for MSPs?
Absolutely.
So this is great. I love this because again, it just gives you that ability to try it out. And so there's really, there's no barrier to entry to be able to give Lumu a chance and try out. And so you can add up to 3 customers, and so there are overall three integrations total, or is it 3 integrations per customer? How is that?
Per customer. Per customer.
Okay, very cool. And then up to a total of 50 endpoints.
Well, one of the things that I learned, Dan, is when I was doing the research for building, Lumu for MSPs, I went to Reddit, right, and asked the MSP community what were the challenges that they were getting, and I even put the outcome of that survey into Reddit as well. And a lot of the issues that they mention is, we want to try this tool by ourselves. Why? Because we're technically savvy. We don't necessarily need the hand holding of the vendors. If we need it, we're gonna reach out. And that's exactly why we built Lumu for MSPs. The other thing is pricing, right? Often vendors push to us business models that doesn't make sense to our business model, right? So we build Lumu for MSPs, thinking into the pricing needs of the market, right? Their cash flow is often on a monthly basis, because that's how they get the monies from the customers that they're serving. So they want to see that replicated in the business model. And the other is, we want to make sure that we can manage all our tenants, all our customers from a single view, right? We don't want to go into different portals to see all our tenants, but more importantly, we prefer to have all that consolidated through the operational tools that we have, being ConnectWise, Kaseya, and one of the most relevant. So we build that for them, and I think that's why we're seeing this traction in the market. We're adding significant value for MSPs to do efficient cybersecurity operation for the customers that they're serving.
Yeah, and I keep thinking back to what you said about all MSPs will be cybersecurity organizations in the next 10 years. And, and I truly believe that as well. What would you say, what advice would you give to an MSP today so that they don't wait until year 9 when all of a sudden, it's too late, they're behind the 8 ball and, and they're just clinging on?
I think it's embracing the model. And I think that's, by the way, thank you for asking that. It's a really good question. What you see in the market is you find these narratives of Mr. MSP, you don't have to worry for security. I can do security better. I am a security vendor. So just buy my MDR service and I will serve your customers and you don't have to worry about that. Every time that an MSP does that, it's putting its business at risk. And it's putting its business at risk because some years down the line, what the market is going to demand is that they have the ability to do it. So embracing that they can do that with the analysts that they have, with the right tools to provide expert-like outcomes of cybersecurity with tools that empower them to do so. That's what will enables them to be business ready to serve the demand of the next 10 years or so. So embracing is key. And again, there are going to be winners and losers. The
Right.
winners often embrace the disruption. The losers, hold the business that they have until it's too late to react.
Yeah, and I think that hesitation or that complacency, ultimately, is the killer. And I anticipate that there'll be a lot of consolidation as we move forward too. Many MSPs have set out to, put their name on the door and develop a company to earn a living, to provide a level of service. However, because of regulation, because of the demands of cybersecurity, smaller MSPs may not have the capability of accomplishing that without attaching themselves to a larger organization. Would you agree with that as well?
I think that's also true. As I learn more about the MSP market, we try to make the offering appealing for MSPs along the journey of maturity of the MSPs, right? So if you had a early stage MSP, you can use Lumu. If you are a more developed MSP, you can use Lumu. And if you are a larger, mature MSP, you can also use Lumu.
Sure.
That said, I do agree that there's going to be a lot of consolidation, and that consolidation is going to make even more relevant for those MSPs that are consolidating others to build a business that is more effective and more appealing, where the gross margins are better. And by doing so, they definitely have to go deeper into cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone had asked about seeing the dashboard. Go ahead and sign up for the Lumo for MSP Lite, and you'll be able to see the dashboard right there and play around with it. We do have a lot of great information on the Everything MSP site. If you search for Lumu, you can get additional information there. Most importantly, though, you can reach directly out to Lumu. You can send a message right from that site. So go to everythingmsp.com, search for Lumu, and you can get additional information. Doesn't look like we have any additional questions, which means you did an incredible job at yeah. And I know I'm going to pick up that book. I have not seen that one, but I always love a good read like that, and so I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. for making this space available for the MSP industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ricardo. I greatly appreciate your time and expertise, and look forward to seeing you in the near future. Everybody out there, looking forward to see you guys as well. And we really appreciate you being here, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.